Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Lamp in the Library. I'm Graham.
I'm Kim.
And today we're going to continue with the seasonal theme, and we're going to be talking about books to read over the holidays now that December is upon us.
Yes, and today we're going to get into Christmas reads that are really Christmassy, really filled with the Christmas spirit, because I myself am more of an elf character who gets really excited for Christmas. So these are Christmas reads for elves. And Graham is a more relaxed, slow to enter the Christmas season sort of personality. But we're going to see if he's interested in any of the books that I suggest.
Okay, Kim, what do you have for very, very festive reads?
First up is J.R.R. Tolkien's Letters from Father Christmas. And this is a really wonderful book that is a collection of letters that Tolkien wrote himself to his children, and he wrote them as if he was Father Christmas. And I think you'd have to be really stone cold hearted not to be charmed by this book and the letters within. And what's really great about it is it does feature the letters typed up, but you'll also have copies of the writings that he did, so you get to see his handwriting and like the beauty he put into the letters. And as you can see, it features his own illustrations as well, and it creates just this really beautiful read with letters from Santa Claus that you can, or I should say Father Christmas, that you can sort of let your imagination flow with who Father Christmas is, but also be really warmed to your very core by the fact that he took the time to write these for his own kids.
Wow. So Tolkien is obviously best known for The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, fantasy works. So does any of that fantasy go into this book?
Yeah, I think so, because it's really like his own imagination and world building to create his figure of Father Christmas within the letters. And then also I think it really comes to display with the illustrations that he has. I mean, even just it kind of goes with the cover, but also where he lives. It's really fun and kind of magical and mythical.
Yeah, that's right, Cooper. What do you have next?
The next book I have is going still with the theme of Father Christmas or Santa Claus, and this is The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. Most people are familiar with Baum from his work The Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Yeah, and this book itself is a telling of the life of Santa Claus.
No.
Naughty. Sorry about that. Our dog was just very excited about Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with going through the youth of Santa Claus, and then his early manhood and his older age, and it sort of plays with some of the questions that you may have about who Santa Claus is and where he came from. And it's a really delightful, fun read. And again, that's The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus.
Well, that's really interesting. I actually read The Wizard of Oz by this author for a children's literature class back in university, and it was a strange book. I mean, I guess it's a strange movie as well. But this is basically, if I understand correctly, the origin story of Santa Claus?
Yeah, it features like his origin story and even up until when he's older. But yeah, definitely a big part of it is the origin of Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's surprising that no one has brought this to film. All the movies in the theater now seem to be origin stories of superheroes.
Yes.
Why not a Santa Claus origin story?
Yeah, I think you could actually do a really good job. Well, someone could do a good job of adapting this to the screen. There was a Bass and Rankin stop motion short, a 60-minute TV special that was made, but you very, very rarely will see it. I mean, I was lucky enough to catch it once because AMC, that channel, played it, and it was really fun. And it has its own flavor, so it's not necessarily everything you're familiar with the story of Santa Claus 2, because it's his interpretation and imaginings of it. And I think it would actually make a really beautiful stop motion or animated film. So next up, I have another book from this collection of Christmas classics that Penguin put out a few years back. But what's really nice about them, just to show together, is they all feature a cardinal theme on the covers, a holiday cardinal theme. And I think they make really beautiful decorations to put out as well, so there's an added bonus to them. But this book is A Merry Christmas and Other Christmas Stories by Louisa May Alcott, who most readers know from her novel Little Women. And anyone who's read that book usually is really touched by the Christmas scene within that novel. And maybe you just want to read that. And this book includes, the Christmas scene from Little Women, and then other short stories and parts of Alcott's writing that feature Christmas. It's a very heartwarming sort of Christmas vibe. I think maybe for some people they may find it a little too on the twee side for people who aren't into that, but I think it's really perfect for capturing the heart of what Christmas is, especially for like the sense of family.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think that our perception of Christmas as a celebration where it's all about heart and giving and being charitable and being kind and coming together, it comes from this kind of 19th century. Maybe that's just what we get from the books because we, Charles Dickens and Little Women, for example, but it seems untainted by the 20th and the 21st century Christmases, which are more commercial in nature.
Right, yeah, there's no mention of like Black Friday sales and making sure you hit the stores at the right time or anything like that. Next up, I have sort of in a similar vein, this collection of writings by Madeleine Engle, and it's called Miracle on 10th Street and Other Christmas Writings. Most people are familiar with Engle's work, A Wrinkle in Time, and this book itself is a collection of nonfiction and fiction writings that Engle's done that feature Christmas. And Engle herself was an Episcopalian, so her nonfiction work is very much exploring ideas around the spiritual significance of Advent and the Christmas story. So for those who are more interested in maybe reading a bit about the religious and spiritual side of Christmas, there's some of that in here. And again, it's a collection of writings, so you can sort of just flip through, and she even has some poems in it, so it's really nice to get a taste of Engle's writing as well.
I recently read A Wrinkle in Time for the first time. So was there any of that fantasticalness present in this writing, in her nonfiction writing in general?
Yeah, what I find really interesting about Engle's nonfiction work, which I've recently read a lot of and I really appreciate, is that I think she would say that there's nothing more almost supernatural and magical than this Advent season and this virgin birth of this person that goes on to inspire generations of people and the message in which Jesus shared. So I actually think that's really tied to her work in fiction as well, is seeing almost the mythical side of all these things. For Engle herself as an Episcopalian, like she definitely believed in the story, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't see that her Episcopalian faith is one of storytelling. So it's an interesting sort of blend of her thoughts there, actually. I hope that made sense. And then lastly, I think most people are familiar with this story and they've seen television and film adaptations, but I always think that it's really wonderful to actually return to the original, the printed word of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This is a lovely Penguin English Library edition. I really like the cover. But I think that it's still the best. The best is still to just return to the written word of Charles Dickens himself. And I think that it's a lot of what we hope Christmas to be, in that, especially in terms of how he presents Christmas present, but also how this is a time of year for reflecting on ourselves and what we've done in the year. And I think that this story can be almost more pertinent than ever because due to COVID-19, we're sort of at this spot where we have a chance to reimagine, revision how our societies are built, how we're going to go forward and what recovery looks like after the COVID-19 pandemic. And it can be one that is more built towards creating an equitable society for people, and one that is truly more fair and loving. And I think that this is a story, that shows that you have two visions in front of you, and which one are you going to choose? Which one are you going to work towards?
Yeah, that's really interesting because, I agree with you. We are at a point right now, just before the Christmas season, where we can see, a vision of the future that is hopeful and better, or a vision of the future that's much worse, and like Scrooge, we have a decision to make, dare I say, a moral decision to make, for the betterment of all.
So
interesting to revisit. I actually revisit the Christmas Carol once every few years and reread it, just because it is the best. And I definitely watched the 1950s movie, if not every year, once every 2 years.
The one with Alistair Sims?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the best. Non-colorized. I don't like when it's black and white.
Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So those are my suggestions for really just going, all in Christmas vibes. So Graham, did any of them speak to you?
Well, like I mentioned, Christmas Carol is a classic, but I'm really interested in reading the Santa Claus origin story.
Ah, yes. The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. It's a very good choice. You gonna read it?
I'm going to read it.
Yay!
So some books that we are reading now and that we're actually going to talk about in an upcoming episode are these fantastic Biblioasis Christmas ghost stories. So the story here is that it used to be a tradition that people would come together to tell ghost stories around Christmas. Darkest time of the year, it's a time to share ghost stories. So Biblioasis and Seth, who does the illustrations and the cover art for all of these editions, are trying to get this tradition started again through the publication of these ghost stories. Absolutely fantastic. We're both reading through some of the ones that just came out this year and last year. So we'll do a full episode on that soon. Keep well.
Keep reading.